Beyond the Couch. My name is Phoenix. Thank you for joining us today. As we acknowledge also Mental Health Awareness Month. Today we're speaking on a topic that carries a large amount of stigma in the mental health space, and that is suicides. I pulled some stats from the AFSP site, so I wanted to share those with you. AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, provided that suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the U.S. In 2022, we had 49,476 Americans die by suicide, an estimated 1.6 million suicide attempts. Okay, so then the 49,476 are actual deaths. The 1.6 million is what they estimate as people attempting to take their lives. Now, within that, we have 3.85 times more likely that men are dying from suicide than women, and that men account for 68.46% of suicide deaths. So that's an interesting statistic, and these are actual deaths. I think that when we were doing different studies on why there was a difference in numbers, is that there are actually more attempts by women, but that men are actually more successful when they do it. And it has to do with what it is that they're utilizing. Most men use firearms, and 54.64% of these deaths are due to firearms. Within ranges as far as demographics, the 85 plus year old people are the highest age range, followed by 75 to 84 years old. So a lot of times I feel people think that it is our younger groups, like our teens, adolescents, but that is not the case. Actually, when they were looking at the numbers, they have decreased for 15 to 24 year olds from 2021 to 2022. So those numbers have actually decreased as far as suicide attempts in that range. So just to share some knowledge with that, today I have with me a guest who is here to share her story. I have Tenaisha Foreman, a suicide survivor and now advocate, sharing her story with others. Thank you so much, Tenaisha, for joining us. So what I will allow you to do is just kind of introduce yourself first.
Hello everyone, my name is Tenaisha Foreman. I am 34 years old, by the grace of God, and I am a mental health advocate. I'm a teacher during the day, and I am a suicide attempt survivor. So I'm very transparent with my story, and I'm here to be the voice for those who are struggling in silence.
And I do appreciate you joining us. I think that this is a very difficult space for people to even have the discussion, let alone for someone who to share their story and it be something that is so personal. So if you don't mind, like, sharing your story and how you survived that.
Yes. So in 2019, the day before my birthday, June 13th, to be exact, I attempted to take my life. I had it planned out. I did not want to see another birthday, and I knew what I wanted to do before the day was over. So I did attempt, and I survived. But before all of that, the things leading up to it, really what played out and what made me come up with the plan. You know, for so many people, we are struggling in silence, and we don't really understand that we do have people to talk to. You know, we do have people that care. So for me, it was just I just knew what I wanted to do. I would have thoughts about it. I would try to think of other things, think of happy things, but something in me just didn't want to be there anymore. So it was the day before my birthday, like I said, and yeah, I let it go on.
Was there any points during that time where people were trying to talk to you? Did anybody notice anything different with you?
So leading up to that, I did have a lot of panic attacks, right? It was to the point where I couldn't go a week without having a panic attack, where I was going to the hospital, things like that. So people knew that I had anxiety. and depression, but I think they were more focused on the anxiety part because I didn't really show signs of depression because I'm the type of person who's always happy, always smiling. So people didn't really think about the depression part. They just thought of me being anxious, living in New York City, working every day, and I got some anxiety, it's fine. But no, the depression part played a huge part of it as well. So a lot of people just knew I was anxious and started being made like, oh, don't overthink because you just, worry about the wrong things and things. Let things play out. So.
So, like when you say a panic attack, I think that, can you describe how that felt and what that looked like for you?
Yeah. I remember my first panic attack, and it felt like I was having a heart attack. I don't know exactly what a heart attack feels like, but I do know that I felt like I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight. I was trying to catch my breath. I couldn't breathe really. I was struggling to breathe, and I just felt like something bad was happening. This was the end. Like I didn't know I needed medical attention, so I did go to the emergency room, and they told me it was a panic attack with anxiety, and I had no idea what that was. Like I just said, okay, I'm just felt a little stressed, a little overwhelmed, and they told me it was a panic attack. So they guided me with a panic disorder and anxiety, and tried to give me steps of how to maybe cope with the anxiety. So that's when I really realized that, okay, this is what a panic attack feels like. I'm going to try to avoid having a panic attack, but it really wasn't it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you have going on during that time that you feel triggered that?
So many things, personal things in life, and just a lot of overthinking. A lot of times we price ourselves out of where we should be at in life as we're getting older. We compare ourselves to other people, and I think that overthinking and trying to plan things out and trying to really help others instead of really taking time for Tenaisha really caused me a lot of anxiety because I wasn't taking the time for me to do self-care, to really pour into myself. I was pouring into others. But that's also a form of high functioning depression.
Okay.
Because I was doing everything for everybody else and I was masking my depression by smiling and making others smile. So that's exactly where it started, where me feeling like, okay, at this time, I can't do it anymore. I'm coming down, I'm feeling like I can't put on this show because a lot of times we're on, like, I feel like we're on camera, like we're trying to play a role during the day, and then when we get by ourselves, it's like, okay, I can really take a moment and feel like, okay, this is not good. So I was masking really well with a smile.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. So the terms you just used, high functioning, can you tell our viewers a little more about that? Like, what does that mean?
So high functioning depression, pretty much you're like myself. I look like I'm fine. I know how to suppress my feelings. I can put on a show and make everybody think that I'm okay. I can still go to work. I can still do school. I can still travel. I can do all the things that everyone else around me is doing. But deep down, I'm really depressed. I'm really anxious, and I'm falling apart. But no one knows because I look like I'm okay.
Yeah.
So, and I always say, check on your strong friends. Because a lot of times, and I am that strong friend, right? So before this turns to everyone, oh, Tenaisha, I'm there for everybody else. It seems like I'm okay. But obviously I wasn't, and that was a big surprise for a lot of people because I was functioning. So a lot of times people feel you're not depressed because you don't look depressed. But depression doesn't have to look. You don't have to look depressed.
Now you touched on a little bit, and we can also talk about it like later on within the segment as well. Self-care. Now, when you get home, like when you would get home after this day of putting on this mask for so long, what were you like? What sort of dialogue were you having with yourself?
Back then, I wasn't doing really well in the self-care department. And that's what really played out in me wanting to attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Because although I was getting home and after a long day of work, a stressful day at work, I would get home and I would just get in bed. I wouldn't really take time to cater to myself, such as maybe having a glass of tea, a cup of tea, or just taking time to really, whether it's washing my hair, decompressing, or journaling.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say, okay, I got through this day. I got through another day. Let me just get in bed, turn the lights off, and that's it. Came a long way. So
Yeah.
yeah. And that's really what it's about, and that's what I've learned. Taking time for yourself and pouring into yourself. Doing your self-care thing. Self-care can be many things.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be going to get your hair done or going to get your nails done. You can sit at home. You can watch your favorite show.
Yeah.
You can do whatever makes you happy. For me, self-care is making you happy. What makes you happy.
And now, what is the big hang up with? What would you tell someone that is like, oh, well, you know, that's being selfish and that is used to, like, it sounds like you are, right? Giving to other people and being that strong friend for people. How do you convince or tell these people what it is that they need to do and how important that is to do that?
Yeah, so when I say check on your strong friend and be a part of what they might be going through, and it's okay to be the strong friend, but like I said, you have to pour into yourself. So if someone is my friend, they know I might not be doing well. Maybe they don't know. Always check in, send a text message, how you doing? Because a lot of times, and I've learned, with being a friend and being, sometimes we take offense when we don't care for people, when people don't text us first, right? We make it about ourselves and we say, they don't write me, so I'm not going to write them. But it's the reason they're not writing it. Or maybe it's not, but it's always check on them. Send a text message thinking about you. And what I was doing, even though I was depressed, I was doing that for my friends. I was still showing up. So I would say show up for your friend. What it might look like on social media is not always true. We're good at making content and showing up and being pretty, but it's a lot that's behind that. It's, with inside. So if you don't hear from someone, if a person cancels on you, maybe it's because they don't feel well, right? So don't take it where they cancel plans, because the reason of plans are canceled, right?
Right.
So.
And I'm glad that you said that because life is made up of so many just moments, right? And I don't think that people think about that enough. So I work with the crisis helpline, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like they're calling because they're in a crisis in that moment. And so if you can be with that person and provide a face for that person in that moment, it could change whether or not they take their life.
Yeah, in that moment.
Yeah.
And
what would you say to people who, you said, that you're not alone. And I stress that with people too, because I'm like, these people who get on these crisis lines, they're everyday people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we want to put them in a different category. What would you tell people who feel like, oh, well, I would never do that?
I would say, don't be ashamed. Don't feel like people are going to judge you, because what you're going through, you're not alone. You're not alone, and no one's going to judge you. And if people are judging you, then they don't love you. They don't appreciate the person you are. So always be okay. If you want to express yourself. And we do have these crisis hotlines. But if you feel like you don't want to tell people your business or have maybe a personal conversation with anyone, these hotlines are really, really beneficial. Because even after an anxious day, maybe you don't want to call up a friend and you say, I have to call this number. I'm not feeling okay. I need somebody to talk to. Maybe I need somebody who might understand what I'm feeling in this moment. And I don't have to share as much, but I want to share what I'm going through. So these hotlines are really important, and they're beneficial. They're right there for us to use. And honestly, in my journey, back then in 2019, I wish that I would have really, really utilized the crisis hotlines, because I did therapy and I talked to you, but after hours, when you feel like that, when you're laying in the bed and you feel like I have no one to talk to, you do. You do.
Yeah. And that brings me to what it is that you do now. I think that it's important that people do understand that it's not even, like, if you're uncomfortable, there's too much of a spectrum of different places and people that you can reach out to. There's so many different areas, and we'll talk about this too, so many different places that you can go to obtain information. But aside from that, therapy. If you don't believe in therapy, or if it makes you uncomfortable to be in a space with someone, they do it virtually now.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be in someone's space, you can call the phone. If you don't like talking to someone on the phone, the crisis text line is strictly text.
Yes.
There are just way too many options for people to take. Please utilize all of them. And the crisis lines are 24 hours. 24 hours you can reach out to somebody during that time.
Yes.
There are many options. There are many ways that you can reach out to people. Tenaisha is now an advocate in this space, not only sharing her story because she has personal experience. Can you tell us what it is that you do and that you're doing to help others?
Yes, so I am, like you said, I'm an advocate for mental health. I also am very transparent online, so I share my story on social media. I also founded Protect Thy Mental, which is my brand, which is many different things. It's gear, it's accessories, but my main purpose is when someone is walking, if you see someone in the store and they have on a Protect Thy Mental t-shirt, hoodie, and it says mental health awareness, what I really want is someone to see the back of your shirt or hoodie and say, I haven't checked on my friend who might be struggling. Or maybe that person that's behind you in line is struggling, and it reminds them that mental health matters, you matter. So I always want it to be a reminder that you are not alone. And Protect Our Mental is really dear to my heart because I actually started it in 2019, the year of my attempt.
Okay.
So it's very dear to me. But I also, I participate with a lot of different organizations. So I'm affiliated with NAMI, I'm affiliated with AFSP. So I really put my voice out there with the community. I do a lot of volunteer work, outreach, community work. So just so many things because I do feel like I am the voice, right? God kept me here to be the voice. So I'm using my voice to help others because I'm still here. So that's very important to me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit more about your brand. So I'm wearing one of your sweatshirts. And you're wearing your shirt.
Yes.
Now you mentioned having wording on the back.
Yes.
So on the back, what is on the back of your shirt?
So on the back, it has mental health awareness. So that's just a reminder, like I said, of mental health. And mental health is important. And let's not forget about our mental. It's just very important to show empathy. Right? It's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in our personal life, and kindness goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think what I do like about that too, right, is that you're talking about, you're just walking around, someone sees the back of your shirt, it can strike up a conversation, it can get people to thinking about, like, what does that mean? It's like, how do I protect it? That kind of conversation. So it's good to open that up.
Yes.
Now, I'm curious, you said that you started this business, you started the brand in 2019, the year of your attempt. Was this before or after?
This was before. Yes. Actually, the night of my attempt, I had on one of my t-shirts. So this was before. So I started, and the attempt was in June. I started the brand in November, right? So a little before then. And I started with just selling t-shirts on hand and stuff. But that was my way of trying to really get into mental health and figuring out what was going on with me, right? And I knew I wanted it to go further, but I still was struggling with what I was going through.
And I think, thank you for sharing that, because I think that that's important to note, that you were even in the space, you understood what that looked like, you had been to therapy before, and still made the attempt.
Yes.
And I tell people too, again, that when we want to lump people into this whole new category, when I'm on the text line, I have other therapists that call. I have other people in the field that call. So we're all human.
Yeah.
We all deal with all of these different things, and it's important. That's why when she was saying, and like we were talking about not being alone, how important it is to stress that we are not these standalone. Oh, I would never do that, because honestly, you don't know what to do.
Right. And it's not, and like it's so many people that you wouldn't expect. It's all different types of people, right?
Yeah.
So you could work in corporate. You can work at the retail store. You can work in Burger King. You can work wherever. It doesn't matter, right? Anyone can struggle with their mental health.
Absolutely.
So that's very important.
Thank you for that. Now, you mentioned 2 organizations that we're both a part of. You actually not introduced me. I've always heard of AFSP, but I know that you're an active part of that organization. And NAMI as well, I serve on the board. Can you tell me more about AFSP? And then there's also a walk that's coming in the fall.
Yes. So AFSP, American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, I was introduced last year. I did my first walk, and it was amazing. I'm doing it again this year in October in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Queens Walk, and I do a lot of volunteer work with them. So it's a lot about suicide prevention, and it's a great community. I feel I really found a community that can help me and that I can build with. And so last year when I did the walk, I didn't have a team, right? It was me and my partner. And I just signed up and I said, you know what, let me get out there and let me see what it's about. Last year I had a team of over 15. And it makes me feel good, but I also will be honest, I'm a suicide survivor, right?
Yeah.
It's so many people who are there who have lost loved ones.
Sure. So
it's really nice to see us all come together for a special cause, for something that's really deep.
Yeah. And as a survivor, what do you feel you could share with other survivors? I feel like there is a different level or a different, maybe different aspects that you have to deal with.
Yeah. And it's funny, I was talking about this not too long ago. I said it's a lot of support for people who have lost loved ones, right? But it's not a lot of support for suicide survivors, because if I could be vulnerable for a minute.
Sure.
When the attempt happened, right, I stayed in the hospital for 2 days after that, right? I woke up on my birthday, and I woke up on June 14th, and I was very upset to still be here. I was very hurt. I was disappointed, and I just was upset that my plan didn't go through. And I was sent home 2 days later, and then you have to follow up with an appointment, right? It's your choice whether you go, because you don't really have to go. You should go, but you don't. Not everyone goes. And even being home, I just didn't feel well. Like I still felt like I should still be at the hospital, right? I had the aftercare. They gave you the support, but it still was no phone call checkup or just making sure I'm okay. So I did go to the follow-up appointment, and they gave the option of going home. If you don't feel okay, you can check in either some of the hospitals that you could stay in. So I checked myself into a facility for a week, because I felt like I still needed work, like I still needed the help. And I stayed for a week. And I say that to say, we're thrown back into the world. And yes, we have a lot of the resources, but we still have a lot of work to do ourselves, And it's been years now. It's still fresh. I still feel it, but we need support, because it's survivor's guilt. I working on it, but I did have a lot of survivor's guilt, because I felt that so many people didn't make it, and I made it. And now I feel guilty, because we don't think about, now everyone knows you made this attempt. So now everyone around you is looking at you like, what happened? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So now you have to face your loved ones, because I did leave notes from my family. So now you have to face that. And like I said, I'm very transparent on social media and stuff, so I did post about it and stuff. And yeah, you really have to. I had to go back to. I went back to work,
Wow.
So you do, and I really felt survivor's guilt the first year I did the AFSP walk. Because like I said, so many people lost loved ones, right? And I'm here as a survivor. And it made me feel so guilty. So guilty. Because I'm here not to celebrate, but to be here and really do the walk, because I want to talk about suicide prevention. But as I'm right here, I'm getting so much anxiety because I'm looking at people who are mourning their loved ones who they lost.
Yeah.
So survivor's guilt is something I really want later on to really like highlight and really do more for survivors, right? Because we survive, but every day is a struggle.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So.
And I was going to ask you about that too. Like, so you said that you're released out into the world. How were your friends, your family? How were they after that?
So many people were surprised. They couldn't believe it. And that's another stigma, that because you're beautiful, you're young, you seem like you have so much going for yourself, that you shouldn't be depressed, or why did you feel that you had to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're here for you. It's so many things. And honestly, as someone back then who was struggling, you can have everything in the world. You could be the richest person. You have everything you need. And it doesn't matter, because what you feel inside, all of that, it's just material things, it's just money. But what you really feel, when you're really struggling, when you have a plan to take your life, you are going to do everything, no matter what happens. They had a birthday party for me at work that day.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great day, but I still knew in my mind that tonight I was going to make the attempt. I knew it. So going around family and friends, everyone is kind of, it's very overwhelming. Everyone is really on you, and they want to watch you and make sure you're not going to do it again, and it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So the anxiety from that, so that everybody, you okay, and I love it. I love this. I'm so grateful to have all the love that I do have around me.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, it was very overwhelming, and that's why I really checked myself into the facility, because I knew I needed more time. I needed to take a moment, get more help, really understand why I did this, and if I wanted to do it again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you were to, because I think that's a good segue into what you do now. What is it that you do now to help you with regulating yourself?
Yeah, so I've come a long way. Now if I feel myself getting overwhelmed, I take a moment. I give myself grace, because no one's perfect. Not every day will be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So like we talked about the self-care, I do take moments to myself. I'm a mom now. I have a wonderful 4-year-old. So balancing motherhood, work, and everything else in life, I give myself grace. I take a moment to myself. I take time to myself, whether it's a walk. If I take the dog out to walk, instead of taking other people with me, take the walk, I go by myself. I sit in the park, now that it's getting nice outside, and I just take a moment to reflect, and I give myself grace. Like I said 1,000,000 times, I give myself grace, because please give yourself grace. You are doing amazing. You're not going to, and I also don't compare myself to other people. We're not going to accomplish everything on the list at the time of, we give ourselves a deadline, and it's okay. Give yourself grace for working at it and taking the step to do it, right? And whatever makes you happy, whether it's journaling, watching your favorite shows on TV, going to your favorite coffee shop, that's self-care for me as well.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. On the other side of that, I had taken, and I encourage people to take this course as well. It's the mental health first aid. Mental health first aid.
Mm-hmm.
When I took it, I think it's different now, but when I took it, it was a day-long, 8-hour thing. But we were in person. We went through all of these different exercises, because you don't understand maybe the narrative or the language as far as what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, how you talk about different things. It exposes you to all of the different mental health illnesses and how to recognize those different things. What I really loved about this class was that, like I said, it provides a narrative, because sometimes we say things and it's just not helpful. and you don't know that because you aren't familiar with what that is. So then, if you could share, what is it that people say that is not helpful to say to someone who
calm down? Sorry to cut you off. Calm down.
Right.
You're overthinking. It's not that serious. What are you worried about it for? It's okay, but definitely calm down. And also, what do you have to be depressed about? What's wrong? Oh, you'll be all right. Just it's nothing serious. It'll go away. Ugh, therapy. Why are you going to therapy? Things like that. Or definitely the calm down, or don't overthink, or anxiety. Oh, you have anxiety too? Well, everybody has anxiety.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Everyone says that.
I was just like that yesterday.
You'll be fine. You'll get over it. It's not that deep. Take it easy.
Yeah. Not validating. And I mean,
not validating, yes.
That's something that is a bad thing to do in communication in general, but especially in this spaces.
Definitely not validating and not giving you the safe space to express yourself. And that's why a lot of people don't express themselves to loved ones and friends, because they're afraid that they're going to blow it off and it's going to be like, okay, it's not that deep. But you can't tell someone what isn't that serious, because that's what's bothering them. So what might not bother you might bother somebody else, and that's okay, because we're all different. We're all our own individuals. So don't tell someone it's not that serious, because what you might not find serious is really breaking that person apart, tearing them apart. And they might not have the coping skills or just to turn the switch off. You can't just turn the switch off in anxiety. I can't just not be anxious. I wish I could. We wish we could turn it off, but that's not the reality of it. It's okay.
Right. And with that validation too, I think it's important, first off, that people understand what that means, because that doesn't mean that you don't have to agree with the person.
Yes.
That just means that you're there, that you're here, that you are hearing that person, that you're listening to that person, and that you acknowledge them.
Yes.
You could disagree with them every time that they say something, but then acknowledge that they are going through what they're going through, because they know what they're going through.
And you know what I've learned as a friend, and vice versa with how I do the friends and with friends, I listen. You don't always have to talk or answer. Let the person vent to you and just listen. Sometimes people just want you to listen to them.
Right.
We don't have to give our opinion. Like you said, we might not agree with it, but sometimes they just want to vent to you.
Right.
That's it. You don't have to just sit and say, I understand what you're going through. That's it.
We could give that would be a whole nother segment on how to communicate.
Yeah.
And how to listen. So we'll save that. I do have some questions. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your story. I do have some questions that some people had given me, so let me see what I've got. My first question is, a friend of mine mentioned perhaps taking their life, but they were joking, or they were kind of joking. It seemed like they were joking, and I'm worried. How do I approach them without sounding judgy?
First thing is, when a person makes a joke about suicide, it's not a joke. I will say from my own experience, I made a lot of jokes about suicide or said a few things, and it's not a joke. But they're how we cope with it, and we make things a joke because it's serious to us. But I would definitely say, keep your friend close, listen to what he or she is saying, and if you feel like they are going to harm themselves, definitely reach out for help. Get them the help. But never take it as a joke. And also, if you don't want to come off too judgy, just have a really casual conversation of, how are you feeling today? Is there anything I can do to support you?
That's good. And that's a good point too, right? And when we're on the crisis line, that was one of the things that was in our training. We have to ask everyone, have you made any attempts or any plans to take your life? And it's an uncomfortable thing to ask. You feel kind of embarrassed. You don't want to embarrass the person or make it seem like you're sort of categorizing them,
Mhm.
but sometimes just asking brings it out to where they're comfortable enough to be like,
Yes.
well, no, or yes or no, and
Mhm.
they may joke about it, they may laugh about it, but then they'll maybe also talk about it, right?
Yes.
So it opens up that
opens up,
conversation.
it opens up the conversation for them to feel comfortable enough to say, listen, I'm really not having a good day. You know, I have been having these thoughts, or I'm not having these thoughts, but thank you so much for asking me.
Right.
You know?
And it does help to normalize it, right?
Yes.
Someone else is asking about it. Oh, okay, well then maybe they see something, or maybe they'll want to talk with me about it.
Mm-hmm.
And normalizing. So this brings me to another question as well. Like, how do you feel this impacts our communities, especially BIPOC communities? What do you think that we could sort of share with our friends to make it more of a normal conversation?
You know, I always say we're always comfortable when it's maybe gossiping or having a very casual conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, mental health, it can be an uncomfortable conversation. But if you make it where it's more casual, how are you doing mentally? I know you have anxiety. How have you been coping with your anxiety? Like I said, is there anything I can do to support you?
Yeah.
Having these uncomfortable conversations, because every conversation is not going to be something great, you know, but as a friend or a family member, I think just really digging deep into, and even when I was dealing with what I was dealing with, having the conversations of, you know, I know you always checking on everybody else, but how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know, you know, you've had a few panic attacks. Is there anything I can do to support you with that? Is there any way I can make you less anxious, even though everything makes you anxious, but is there anything I can do to really help you? Let's go out, you know, and not just to party and drink. Let's go grab a cup of coffee. Let's journal together. Let's check in. Let's have these conversations where we're checking in with each other weekly. Because some people don't want to talk every day, and that's okay. We'll give them their space. You know, Everyone has their own way of communicating, but let's have a check-in. Let's set a time where we check in with each other.
That's good. Yeah, like scheduling it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What else did I get from? Someone asked, did you give clues, and what should we be looking for from our friends?
So for me, I don't really think I gave any clues, but like I said, I had a plan. But I did, I don't know, I didn't give clues. Oh gosh, see, I'm going like
No, that's okay. So if you didn't give clues, well, so if I'm being transparent and I'm asking you a really like open kind of question, did you really want to take your life? Because I feel like what I read a lot of is most people don't.
Right.
So then they'll say ahead of time this or that, like, that people will stop them. But if you weren't giving clues, why weren't you giving clues?
I wasn't giving clues because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted my plan to be successful, and I didn't want anyone to stop me or get me the help that I know I needed. I really had a plan, and like I said, when I woke up, I was very upset. I'm very grateful, thank you, God, for keeping me here. But at that time, I didn't give any clues because I didn't want anyone to worry about me or to even say, listen, you have to go check yourself in, because I just knew I didn't want to see another birthday. And I want to talk about birthdays real quick. Don't put so much pressure on yourself when it comes to your birthday. I think a lot of times everyone is so worked in on planning what they have to do and making it this whole charade. And I'm very grateful we're very grateful to see birthdays, right, to live another year. But we don't have to make it where it's a stressful time, where we have to make it this huge thing. If you want to just sit at home on your birthday, that's okay. You know, back then I put a lot of pressure on myself when it came to that, and just looking at where I was in life and where I should be and how everybody else is doing in their life and what they have succeeded in. But we're going to celebrate even the small things. Every birthday, celebrate. It doesn't every day celebrate the small things, because every day that we're here another day is a celebration.
Thank you for that. let me go to, we asked about regulating. I'll save that one for last. So how did you know that you were depressed? I guess talking more about that condition for yourself.
I knew I was depressed when everything was going right for me and I still felt sad. No matter what was happening, who I was with, what I was doing, I was still sad.
Mm-hmm.
I still felt this emptiness and this still thought of not wanting to be here. I felt like the anxiety, the depression, everything that was going on in my head, because at that moment I had no control of my thoughts and what I was feeling. And I wasn't at the point in my life where I knew how to do the work and how to get me to really understand what was happening with me. So I definitely just, I just really felt like I didn't want to be here. I would see things and I would be like, And if I could be very honest, it was to a point where I was praying to die. I was praying to not see another day. When I would be out commuting, I had thoughts of things, and I knew it wasn't right. I knew I didn't feel right. And I did a lot of therapy. I did so many things. Therapy is very beneficial. Mm-hmm. I would like to say that, it's very beneficial. But it's so much more that comes with it. You have to really do the work. And I just felt very unhappy. And looking back at pictures of myself, I didn't even look like myself. Looking at over the years of where I am now, I don't even recognize that person. Mm-hmm. My eyes and no matter where I was, I could have been at a party, a concert, my eyes, I just look at the pictures and I just see sadness and just really needing help. So that's how I knew I was really depressed. Nothing made me happy. Mm-hmm. I feel like every day that I was still here, it was draining me. I felt like, oh boy, I have to get up, okay, let me get myself together, because now I have to put on the mask, I have to get out in the world, I have to go to work, I have to do this, I have to put on a show, because that's what it feels like. When you see a lot of actors and actresses who you realize suffer from depression, mm-hmm. and the roles they play and how they acting helps them to, really deal with their depression because they're acting. That's what I was doing. I was an actress. So, depression doesn't ever look.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I am glad that you said that, and then we'll go into the different maybe avenues that people can reach out to. But what I hate to hear is when someone says something like, well, I have bad days. Like, you're probably just having a bad mm-hmm. day, Depression, and it's like Tenaisha is saying, it is something, and it lasts, clinically it needs to last more than 2 weeks. But most of the time it lasts more than that. If you are just consistently depressed, like sad, like crying for no reason, like all of these different things that are going on, and you still feel like you can't get out of bed, you're not doing things that are, good for you, maybe as far as like hygiene and things like that, then you really need to reach out to someone and get help. Mm-hmm. Because that is, for clinical depression, that is what the signs that we would be looking for.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that. I am so glad that you are still here, because you're still here to help other people who are going through, or who potentially could go through mm-hmm. something like that. So the different avenues, if someone is asking, that was one of the questions, like if I'm feeling like I need help, where do I go?
Definitely, if you're feeling like you need help and you feel like you need somebody to talk to, as we mentioned earlier, 988, the crisis text line. That's very, like we said, beneficial 24/7, right? 24 hours a day. You can reach out to loved ones. Maybe you need somebody to speak to that's close to you so they can understand what you're going through. And if you really feel like you are going to harm yourself or hurt yourself, 988. But if you need something immediately, please go to the hospital. It's okay. It's okay. No one's going to judge you. Get the help that you need. That's being strong. When you know you need a little bit of extra support, reaching out and getting the help, that's strong. That's brave. That's being brave. And it's no shame in needing help. That's why it's there. There's no shame in it, right? So definitely utilize these things. We have AFSP. You can go on their website. They have a bunch of lists of things that can help you. We have NAMI. We have
Exactly. For sure. You know, I advocate for that, of course, because that's what I do. Well, I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. I hope that, and actually I know that this was beneficial to someone. So please watch it, share it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop comments in the comment section, and we'll be sure and answer those questions for you or get the help that you need as far as what it is that you're asking. We appreciate you all for joining us today, and until next time.
And remember, you matter.
You are not alone.
Yes.